Hello. How's it going, people? Welcome to the stream, Monday, October 14th. Hope everyone's having a fantastic Monday, pretty much, because obviously it's Monday and it's definitely not a great thing for most people because, let's be real, for most people, Monday is associated with work. But I hope you're doing great, you're doing fantastically well. And overall today, it's a bit of a roller coaster in terms of Arsenal. There are some good news, some bad news, more injury worries, which is never a good thing. Obviously, we yesterday spoke about Bukayo Saka, and we are still waiting for some news on that. But there are more news on injuries with potential Gabriel Martinelli injury, so that is definitely not a great thing. There's some transfer news despite it being mid-October. There are talks about Partey potentially getting signed on free, so that will be interesting to talk about. Borussia Monchengladbach also wants one of our youngsters. We're definitely going to talk about that. And some other bits and bobs there. And of course, we are looking into the future a bit. We are looking already on the weekend when we play away at Bournemouth. And yeah, it's not looking that great because at the moment we have 7 players, if I'm not mistaken, under the question due to injuries. And if we add Martinelli, it could be 8. So we're definitely going to look into that. So we could potentially have quite a bit of players missing. So it's not looking too well at the moment for Arsenal, Mikel Arteta overall. So if you're new around here, of course, don't forget to smash thumbs up, don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, all that good stuff. Get live interactive in the chat. And if you're watching this as a playback, don't forget to leave a comment down below. And we are digging straight in with some not so positive news. In a way, we're gonna talk about the fact that according to data and everything, most big chances missed in Premier League this season. First place, well, technically first place with another team, but it's Arsenal. Then it's Spurs. Well, we both have 18. 17 for Man United and Liverpool, and 16 for Chelsea. Now, the big thing is, you can look at this stat 2 ways. First one, we're creating chances. We're creating chances, which is a positive. Same goes for, well, technically Spurs, United, Liverpool, Chelsea, and we have just been unlucky that we cannot finish them. That is the positive. We actually can create, despite the fact that we have had Odegaard out for a bit, we still can create some chances. That is the positive light. The negative light in all of this is, none of these teams can finish their dinner. And there is something very common for all of those teams if you look at the forward line. None of them have consistent finishers, a proper goal scorer in front of the goal. Because Chelsea have Action Jackson, as we all know how his finishing is going. He needs about 60 chances to score 2 goals. Liverpool as well, they don't have a designated out-and-out striker or a clinical finisher like they used to go. For example, Suarez. They had the trio of Mane, Firmino, and of course, Mohamed Salah in his prime. United as well, they have Marcus Rashford, who knows what he's doing. They have Garnacho, they have Højlund, Zirkzee, and players like that. So also, Spurs as well. Yes, they have Son, but he's health in decline. They have, Johnson, definitely not too great. And they have Solanke, who just joined and already is missing certain chances, and he is struggling quite a bit. And of course, there is Arsenal. We have Saka, we have obviously Havertz, we have Jesus, we have Martinelli, Trossard. You can count as many you want, but none of these teams, and I'm speaking also about Arsenal here quite specifically, we don't have an out-and-out gunsman, bagsman up front who could finish chances quite consistently. And that at the moment is arguably the biggest issue of these stats. Obviously, the good news is that all the teams can create chances. They just cannot finish them. And if we talk about Arsenal specifically, it doesn't help that, for example, obviously Bukayo Saka has missed some big chances, but he's assisting, he's getting that GA up, and he's actually creating for others to score, which is obviously a positive. We also would want for Saka to score a bit more. On the other side, Martinelli has missed quite a bit of chances. Trossard as well, he hasn't had many chances, but he has missed a few. Other players as well. And then we get to the striker department. Our number 9s, and we have Havertz and Jesus up top. And we all know that as Havertz has had a very good start of the season so far, still at the same time he is not consistent enough to finish most of those many chances, because he can get 5-6 chances a game. Unfortunately, most of the time he finishes maybe 1, at best too, and that is the big worry. And if we look at Jesus, he has said himself that scoring goals isn't his main forte, and we all saw that even against Bolton. We pushed 5 goals past Bolton. Sterling scored, assisted, Monchengladbach scored, other players scored. Jesus pretty much did nothing. So this is as good a stat as this is, that we actually still are creating chances despite missing Odegaard. The sad part is we don't have players who can finish them on consistent basis. Because let's be real, if we even look back at games, if we score at least one of those chances, we got 2-3 clear-cut chances to score against Brighton, we win that game and we're on the top of the table pretty much. That again comes, Kai Havertz missed a chance, Saka missed a chance, and that all again comes all down to the fact that we don't have a proper bagsman up in front. And if we had a proper striker in that instance, maybe in those situations, the outcome could have been completely different. And I would like to think that this number of 18 big chances missed would definitely go down to, like, I would say 12, 13 at worst. So definitely we are missing out on about 5-6 goals in the early stages of the season. We all have seen those chances, and that's what is very, very worrying looking long term, because unless we start converting those chances, sooner or later we will start to pay the price for this situation, and then it's not going to be pretty. So as good as it is, it's quite a bit worrying as well. But obviously, we'll have to remain and see. Maybe Arsenal do something in January to rectify that or something, but obviously nobody knows at the moment, especially the fact that Havertz is under a bit of a question mark at the moment. Bukayo Saka is under a question mark. We don't have Odegaard. We're gonna speak on Martinelli soon because there's he could be injured as well. So it doesn't look too good overall. It just doesn't look too good. Maybe I'm a bit too worried about nothing, but at the same time, you cannot just ignore facts like that with the situation we have at the moment in hand at Arsenal. So let's see what's gonna happen when we play Brighton, when we go to Liverpool, when Liverpool comes to Emirates and stuff like that. But I'm not gonna lie, this stat, as good as it is, it's not phenomenal to look at, to say the least. On to some positive news. William Saliba still is the only player in Europe's top 5 leagues to still have 100% tackle success so far this season, which is actually quite phenomenal. And this is one of the prime examples why Real Madrid want him. I don't want to say desperately, but there is some very concrete interest in them. There's no coincidence that they're sending scouts to Arsenal's games, to also some of the big games, to see how he performs under pressure. Obviously, as yes, he's Arsenal's faithful. He likes playing here. He loves playing for Arsenal. But as well, let's be real. For many players, when they are growing up as kids, one of the dreams is playing for Real Madrid, or one of the biggest teams in the world, if not probably the biggest team in the world. And if you think about it as well, overall, if push comes to shove, Arsenal need to start winning trophies. Because coming second, not winning anything, will Arsenal do more harm than good? Because as soon as Real Madrid will come in with a very serious offer, Saliba's head might spin a bit. And then it can go anywhere. And that is, for me, the biggest worry. Because for me, we can replace our Ben White, we can replace our left back Zinchenko or Calafiori. It's a possibility to replace them. There's also a possibility, to a certain extent, replace Gabriel Magalhaes. I'm speaking in these terms, because he's great in a double pairing, but obviously in a way Saliba excels in certain aspects, Gabriel excels in other aspects. But there are more these physical bad boy defenders, like Gabriel, for example. Players like Saliba, for example, in this instance, don't come around too often. Genuinely, who has ice in his veins when defending. He even sometimes skills past defender. He has a very, very smooth touch on the ball. He can pass it, he can defend, he has good recovery speed. He reads the game very, very well. Players like that, who basically, if he was a one-club man, for example, he would be one of the main guys throughout his whole career. He genuinely is that good to be one of the best, if not the best center back at some point in his career. There definitely is signs and possibilities of that. The biggest question is where it could happen. Will it be at Arsenal? Or will it be somewhere else? Will it be at Real Madrid? Because unless he again I come back to these trophies and everything. Unless Arsenal start to win trophies, uh, being the best defender, as amazing as it sounds, as good as it is, it brings almost no weight in the discussions among the best defenders, because most of the best defenders in the world we talk about, your Maldinis, Barresis, Cannavaros, Pepes, Ramoses, even John Terry's and Rio Ferdinand's, players like that, all have won major honors. And if Arsenal will not be able to kind of guarantee him that in this instance, we could be in a very, very long summer at some point when Real Madrid come for him. And on top of that, as I said, replacing Saliba is a very almost impossible task in this day and age, because the way we signed him, he has grown to a phenomenal defender. Obviously, there's no guarantees that we don't go sign another youngster and he grows into a player like Saliba, right? But at the same time, he's very unique type of defender, a defender that Arsenal, in this partnership, the way we play, is basically like fits like hand to glove. And replacing him, as I genuinely believe, is pretty much impossible to a certain extent. So yeah, Arsenal need to start winning soon. Either this 100% tackle success and stuff like that will be more and more, will grow and will be like an avalanche. Basically, it will roll and increase in terms of Real Madrid being more and more convinced that they need to sign him. And that is one of my biggest worries. And this is amazing stat. I'm not taking anything away for him. Give him credit where credit is due. But yeah, it also could spell massive, massive trouble for Arsenal overall. Also, Albert Sambi Lokonga, a guy we spoke about yesterday's Arsenal's loan watch, we spoke on him. He's at the moment on loan at Sevilla with option to buy. And he has spoken on Mikel Arteta and actually has spoken quite some praising words basically about Arteta. So what he said about Mikel Arteta is that it's very intense and true. He's always there if you want to talk, but when you're on the pitch, he demands a lot from you. He demands basically 110%, or basically you are gonna get benched. That's pretty much what he's saying here. But it's the only way to manage a team like Arsenal. Exactly. The bigger the club, the bigger the expectations. And the way Arsenal are, the way the stature, the magnitude of Arsenal's football club basically comes with a lot of weight, massive expectations, and demands. And if you cannot live up to those, you basically sooner or later will gonna get the boot from the club. And unfortunately, in a way, as promising as it started for Lokonga in a way, at the same time, he has gotten the boot pretty much, and he is basically deemed not good enough for Arsenal in those instances. So very praising words for him, for Mikel Arteta, because he demands everything, and as it should be, especially at Arsenal. But yeah, not looking good for him in that regard. He just basically in this instance says that he's not good enough. It is what it is. Let's be real. There's nothing, there's no shame in saying that you basically are not the best. Obviously, you should strive for being the best, but you need to know your limitations. And obviously, yeah, under Mikel Arteta, you either are the best, or you perform the best, and you give your 110, or basically you don't play under him at all. I know it's very ruthless. It's very, very rough way to kind of deal with players, but at the same time, if it was any other club, big club at least, it shouldn't be any different. You either fight, you give your all and you earn the spot, or at least as a rotational role, or you basically leave the team. That's pretty much as it is. So yeah, very good words and very praising words from Lokonga in a way for Mikel Arteta. But yeah, I guess it tells more about him than it says about Mikel. And now we are basically hitting the big issue. It's one of the main titles for today's stream. Arsenal staff are in contact with Brazil as Gabriel Martinelli felt pain in his right calf and underwent an MRI on Sunday. CBF confirms there's small muscle edema in the area and he's undergoing treatment. Now, this is a very interesting way that it's phrased, because a small muscle edema may mean nothing. At the same time, it could mask something bigger. Martinelli already has fallen off a cliff since that season he had 2 years ago. And at the moment, he, in a way, is fighting for his life to be a starter or be at Arsenal. And injuries at the moment has hit him in a way in the worst time possible. Because, if I'm not mistaken, he's been injured on quite a bit in a way since that season he had 2 years ago. He had that season in 22-23 season, right? 22-23 season, he missed 3 games. Since then, last season, he had a hamstring and he had a foot injury. Technically, he missed only 10 games, but it feels like missing those 10 games has made him, I don't want to say this, but genuinely a massive shadow of himself. Either he has lost confidence somewhere, either he has lost a step, because it sometimes feels that he's also slower than he used to be. And he's hella young still, he's only 23. It shouldn't be an issue at the moment at this stage of his career that pace is becoming an issue. Yes, maybe at 27, 28 you can lose a step or something, but at the moment already losing a step or 2 at times, it's not a good sign, especially with the fact that you basically get quite a bit of muscle injuries. So we will have to wait and see, but at the moment it's very, 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 very dangerous situation for Arsenal, because already Bukayo Saka is under a question mark, and if Martinelli is also under a question mark, and God forbid they both cannot play, we will go into a game with a front 3 pretty much with most likely Trossard, Jesus, and Raheem Sterling potentially, if Havertz hasn't recovered in time. So it could be very good if everyone's fine, everyone's rested, everyone gets back. Yet at the same time, it could be peak for Arsenal in a way. And that is arguably one of Arsenal's fans' biggest worries in this instance. Because last season was that season where you could arguably say it was, I don't want to say anomaly, but it was something that you don't see too often. Yes, we got injuries to Zinchenko, to Tomiyasu, to certain players, but Jesus even, but those players get injured consistently at Arsenal and all the time. And none of our main guys in Saka, Havertz, Odegaard, Saliba, Gabriel, White, Raya, even Declan Rice, none of them got injured whatsoever. So basically throughout the whole season, pretty much all the given time we had our main starting 11 there, because if Zinchenko is injured, we rotate that left side consistently, because we don't have a designated left back at the moment in the club. Yes, we have Calafiori now, but last season we didn't. Martinelli was injured, Trossard played quite a bit last season as well, and it proved to be good. Jesus is injured, we played Havertz up top. So we had basically a kind of a starting 11, which was very predictable in a way, but at the same time it was our best starting 11 you could put out. And obviously it also means the fact that we kind of tend to overplay and overuse our players, which means that they lose fitness, they lose stamina, the body basically drains from itself more than it manages to regenerate during the time off. So sooner or later, it means that at some point, at any given stage, we could get hit with more injuries than obviously would be as more than common sense would dictate. Because at some point, the fact that we missed we didn't have quite a bit of injuries last season, means that this season we should get maybe a few more than we usually would get, just solely due to the fact that it should be balancing itself out. You just cannot take from the body as much and not basically give back to it, because most of Arsenal's players obviously play international games, cup games, league games, Champions League games, and all that stuff, of course. And with the fact that Arsenal, for the longest time, to be honest, hasn't had the best bench, and they cannot rotate properly on consistent basis, with not losing quality or not having basically quality drop like it's off a cliff, it's definitely not a good thing for Arsenal in that regard. And I think we are slowly starting to see a bit of a fall in that regard, and it's kind of starting to hurt us big time in this instance. Big up coach in the chat, big up. Should have bought Julian Alvarez when we had the chance. Potentially. I don't think it would work. The thing is, I like Julian Alvarez. I watch also Atletico Madrid. He's doing somewhat decently. The big thing is, it's another City player. And in a way, if you want to beat City, you cannot just buy players City are just willing to let go. And the other part was, Alvarez wanted consistent game time. Obviously, behind Haaland, you don't get it unless he gets injured for a longer period of time. On the same par, it was pretty much guaranteed that Kai Havertz will be our main number 9 this season, which again means that Alvarez wouldn't be the main role guy. And if we sign Alvarez, maybe Jesus drops off, and he definitely doesn't want that, so it means we have to sell in a way Jesus. So it is a weird one for Arsenal, definitely. Don't you think the game has evolved past the number 9 role? Goals are expected all over the pitch, so I think we place too much importance on a gunman, but it definitely helps. To be honest, I think the game has evolved past just significant number 9s and number 10s. Also, I think the number 10 role, like players like, for example, Özil, and in on the same category, I would also put Odegaard. The football has evolved past. You basically need to be a mix of everything, like Bobby Firmino. He's not a number 9, he's not a number 10, he's something in between, and it worked to perfection. And Arsenal needs something similar like that in this instance, I think. We need a player who can create and at the same time can consistently finish chances. And that I think Arsenal are in a way also missing, because if some of our main guys get injured, we don't get goals. Obviously, Odegaard also hasn't scored quite a bit of goals recently. Same goes for Bukayo Saka. But overall, we need more goals. And I think getting a proper striker in a way would definitely help that, of course. And I also think that maybe with Havertz, with rotation, the way we play, it also could work as a charm. Maybe Havertz playing as that between falling back as false 9/10 while, for example, Odegaard is injured. It also would help Arsenal in many ways, shapes, or forms. Because at the moment, if there is any possibility or any chance, the fact that Martinelli and Saka are missing the game against Bournemouth, we have no substitutions for wings whatsoever, pretty much. And that for me is also a big worry already. Watkins, Sesko, Gyökeres about the only gunmen left. There are quite a bit of gunmen, to be honest. Watkins, Sesko, Gyökeres, you can say Lautaro Martinez, Victor Osimhen. There are quite a bit. The thing is, though, are they good enough to basically improve Arsenal's team or even be on par to keep the level Arsenal at the moment are at? Because we signed Jesus and Zinchenko 2 years ago to basically increase the level of Arsenal. It took only 1 year and we pretty much outgrew those two players at the moment. Genuinely, we have outgrown them. And at the moment, at best, they are good from coming off the bench. That is also a big thing. And for example, Sesko for me is too young, he needs to grow, he needs to develop. Lautaro Martinez is not consistent enough in finishing, so in a way he misses also quite a bit of big chances. He's one of the reasons why Argentina nearly lost, to be honest, the World Cup as well. Obviously Martinez's wonder saves also help, but if Lautaro could finish his dinner, Argentina would have won it easily, in a way. So it is a big one, but players who can consistently finish, arguably, obviously strikers have days off, they miss certain chances and everything, but Gyökeres, Watkins, arguably, are the two ones that maybe could finish more consistently than others. Obviously, you could throw Ivan Toney in that regard, maybe Victor Osimhen. Even though Victor Osimhen, again, is also many times hit or miss. So it's similar like Sesko, for example. He plays very, very aggressive football, and he scores bangers, he scores quite a bit of goals. At the same time, he misses quite a bit of chances. Gyökeres as well. As good as he is for Lisbon Sporting, for example, for Sweden in the last international game, he missed 3 clear-cut chances to score and Sweden lost or drew the game. So it's never a guarantee at the same time. It also depends on many variables, like how he adapts to the league, to the team. Is he good enough? Will he be able to adjust to the surroundings and everything? So we never know, obviously, with signing a proper number 9. But even if we don't sign a proper number 9, right? I think we do, but even if we don't, The fact stays is the fact that always will be is that we need backups. We need rotation where we can rotate on semi-consistent basis without losing quality. We need players to basically replace our starting main guys and not to drop off a cliff. And at the moment, we don't have that in the team. Defensively, yes, we're cool, sound solid. Midfield-wise, it's a hit and miss depending on injuries. Attack-wise is the biggest worry for me at the moment. We need more attacking options. We need more players who can put the ball in the back of the net. And I think specifically from midfield in a way. Yes, I said midfield is decent, but it's more defensively, not going forward as much. Because our midfield doesn't score as many goals as maybe we would desire in a way. We would be needed to maybe get it over the line as well. What if we win the league and Saliba says his job's done here? Either way, players come and go, not bothered by who leaves, and there's a planned continuation. Yeah, the thing is, if Saliba leaves, who is the player that will replace him? Because I've seen links already with Diomande from Lisbon Sporting. That is one of the main guys I've seen the links with still. But yeah, even if Saliba leaves, yeah, I totally agree that there is no players bigger than the team. There are no irreplaceable players. But if Saliba leaves, in my opinion, we will lose a big chunk of the team that was guaranteeing us a success defensively and even going forward. And to find a even close to a similar profile type of player at the moment, it's nearly impossible. And Arteta would need, in that instance, if he stays, for example, and everything, he would need to change, in my opinion, his tactics and his vision for the team, how we play. And that, again, nobody knows if we do more good or harm. That, for me, is the biggest worry at the moment, if Saliba leaves, especially. That, for me, is the replacement who would come in. Because at the moment in World of Football, players like, even similar, like Saliba, it's a massive rarity. And if you want to sign them, even on top of my head, when I sit here and think, I actually cannot imagine like a specific player who could be on top of my head who could replace him like on consistent basis. So we just are in the same spot or close to the same spot we were with him. That for me is the big thing. If you replace the player, are you good enough to come in and basically fill in the shoes to somewhat high level? That for me is the big thing. We have Leo Trossard, depth on points, Kelly sub. Depth on point. In which position? Because let's just say Martinelli and Saka are injured. Yeah, we have to start. Basically, we will have to start all of our attackers we have, and then maybe one is just on the bench as a substitution. Rest of them basically will be youngsters, and that again is not a way to basically go for it. If it's a one-off game, okay, cool, and we should have enough quality to beat, for example, Bournemouth. But overall, yeah, well, that's the thing. If Martinelli is injured, we have Leandro Trossard. Okay, cool. So then you will have to start Havertz in a 10 potentially, and you maybe have to start Jesus up top. That is for me. Skelly is a center mid left back. Arteta has already said that. He's not going to play left wing. Skelly for Arteta is midfielder / left back. He hasn't played him in a left wing role, I don't think whatsoever, pretty much. That for me is the big question. Because if Saka is out, then our attacking three pretty much right wing more often than not is going to be Sterling. Left wing, okay, is a Trossard. And up top we have to play Havertz. That's if Havertz is actually injury free at the moment. If Havertz has recovered. That's the thing. If our both wings are out, we have to start our bench. And then the next players of the bench. That for me is the worry. That for me is the big worry. Second half to defend at left wing. Well, if we can get the job done in the first half, because so far we haven't done it whatsoever. That is also a big thing. Maybe against PSG, besides that, we haven't done job early, I don't know, for about 10-15 games. That is the big thing. Moving on to Thomas Partey, who apparently might be moving during the summer. That is an interesting one. Apparently, Barcelona are interested in Partey on a free. Apparently, the Spanish club can negotiate from January 1st to try and sign a player on pre-contract. Now, the biggest question is, can they register him? Because he can sign for them for all he wants. If they cannot register, he won't play. But obviously there have been rumors of Arsenal trying to extend Partey's contract. There have been rumors of Partey not re-signing and everything, so nobody knows what's really going on. And with the fact that this is the last year of Thomas Partey, and if he hasn't kind of committed his future for at least 1 or 2 more years at Arsenal until January 1st, any given team can go and try and sign him for free if they are ready to pay him. If they are ready to pay what he wants. So this is now a big thing. Obviously, we should be preparing already with the fact that Jorginho is gonna leave and Partey is gonna leave, which gonna also, in that instance, leave our midfield quite empty. We'll have Rice, Merino, and that's it. We will need to sign at least 2-3 midfielders already, unless we want to play Skelly there as a left 8, or Odegaard as a left 8, or Arteta again is gonna push down Havertz, which I never want to see ever again. Unless he decides finally to maybe try out Zinchenko there, who knows. But our midfield, yeah, at the end of the season could look very, very, very thin, to say the least. That is also a big worry at the moment, since we haven't replaced players on consistent basis. Exactly, that's why Chelsea have 3 teams, so they can basically change their whole 11 almost every single game. But that for me is the point in that instance. Bruno Guimaraes and Martin Zubimendi to replace Borja, Jorge and Partey. Now, I can see that. Will Arsenal be willing to pay what? About 200 million for 2 players alone? I am not sure. Because Bruno Guimaraes will be around what, 120, 130, Zubimendi will be about 50 to 70 million. So overall, it will be nearly 200 million. Will Arsenal will do that, plus they will need to sign a striker, or they still want to sign a striker or forward options? Yeah, I don't see that. That is for me the biggest thing. Plus, we don't know what's gonna happen in January. Because these rumors of potentially City trying to sign Zubimendi as a replacement for Rodri still persist. So that also could be off the books quite easy. That also could be very, very off. Yeah, no ways Arsenal is gonna sign, like, basically on average 100 million for 2 players. You already signed 105 million player in Declan Rice. If 2 seasons later Arsenal gonna go and sign those 2, I'm not gonna lie, it would be quite amazing, and that would definitely show that we are serious. The biggest question is, if we sign those 2 midfielders, right? Does that mean we are done in transfer window? Or the next signings will depend on sales? Somehow. Because this summer was the summer where we decided to basically sell and pretty much not sign almost. Where our signings were very heavily dependent on our sales, according to reports and rumors. Because we had the money, we just didn't spend it. I think we just spent about what? We were plus 5 million net spent. We actually made money instead of selling. We were actually in positive numbers. Either it's due to FFP or PSR, but according to reports, Arsenal don't have FFP or PSR issues, which again raises more questions than answers. And if Arsenal want to replace the midfield, they will definitely have to think of something, because if they lose 2 players instantly in the midfield, we basically lose half of our midfield in one day. In June 30th, half our midfield is sayonara and we are done. So yeah, what's the Arsenal's plan in this instance? I have no idea. The big question for me is, will they maybe try and sign someone in January? Could that be the case? Could they maybe try and sign a midfielder in January just to prepare for summer? That for me is a big question at the moment, because I can see that happening. The big thing is who they could sign, because all the players Arsenal have been linked with have played in Champions League, and I don't know how Champions League works per se in that instance. Would they be Champions League cup side or not? That is also a big question for me. Because they could go try and sign Ederson, they could go and try and sign Zubimendi in January on player, something like that, right? but they are playing in and stuff like that. So it's a big question. It's a big question. Or they will finally use Zinchenko in the midfield. That is also a big one. Left back specialist also an issue as well as Raheem only being on loan, so still need the right wing to compete with Saka, plus backup for Havertz, Zini, Jesus, Partey, Jorginho, Kieran Tierney. That is the thing. Will Edu be able to sell about 5-6 players next transfer window? With no loans, with obligation, loan with option to buy. Just plain out go and sell. Like, for example, Jesus, Fabio Vieira, players like that. Will he go out and able to, well, maybe not 6, but maybe 3-4 players, just straight up sell. No loans with obligations or options. Just go and sell them to get the money in now so we can go for other players afterwards. That for me is now a big question. Because if we have the money, I wouldn't be surprised, for example, that we go in instantly for Eze. I would love to have Eze at Arsenal, I'm not gonna lie. Especially the fact that we are losing England players left, right and center, and we need to fill that quota and everything. Obviously we have promoted Skelly and Ranieri to be that, to replace basically Nelson, Smith-Rowe, and Ramsdale is out as well. We technically need a bit more, but at the same time, the thing is, if you think about it, we need technically a striker, backup for Saka. Depending on how everything goes, you could make an argument that we need a backup for Odegaard. Then we need 2 midfielders, so that is 5. Don't forget that Neto is on loan, which means either we will have Setford or Hine as a backup, or we actually need to sign a backup, which are 6 players, instantly. Now, if you've signed, for example, Kudus or Eze, a player that can play number 10/right wing, I'm cool with that. So you basically kill 2 birds with 1 stone, which means you still need technically 4 players to sign. Which again, definitely won't be an easy deal to pull off, especially for Edu. Edu isn't that type of a sporting director, in my opinion, who basically can wheel and deal consistently like that, who can basically sell for, sign for, like straight up with no loans. I don't think he has that pull. Plus, Arsenal are linked with certain youngsters and everything, so everything basically is up in the air, and nobody knows what's going on. In a way, I would hope that in Arsenal's terms, Arsenal know what is going on. But if you look this like an overall thing, it's a bit of a question mark. I'm not gonna lie, it's a bit of a question mark overall. We need wingers, we need attacker, midfield, goalkeeper. It is, nobody knows what it is. Also, Lee Carsley has spoken about Bukayo Saka's injury. Bukayo would have been close to playing versus Finland, but it would have been unfair to take a risk with him. He's a positive person, and I expect him to be fine. Well, the good news is there were no crutches, no nothing. There was a bit of a limp. Obviously, people make fun of his limping and everything, but at the same time, it doesn't matter if it's nothing or if it's even a week or 2. It's basically certain alarm bells going off that we have run this youngster into the ground who is carrying Arsenal basically on his back. If that doesn't tell you and scream at you that you need to sign a goddamn backup for Saka to rotate consistently, I don't know what will. If that doesn't show that you need a backup for certain games for maybe lesser teams, or when you are maybe 3-4 nothing up and you don't need Saka to basically play the full 90, again, I don't know what will. Because for me, this is basically smoke and small alarm bells before the big fire goes off. Yes, he can limp and everything, but that just shows he has something. Now that he has been actually subbed off due to injury, yes, could be a precaution. But how many times have you seen Saka being subbed off due to an injury at Arsenal? Not that often. And definitely not 52nd minute. Definitely not in 52nd minute. Yes, he got subbed off against City, but that was a different reason. But he'd never get subbed off in 50th minute whatsoever. He usually gets subbed off if push comes to shove around 80th, 85th minute. So that definitely should again ring some alarm bells to Arsenal, to Arteta, to Edu, that they are running this player into the ground, and it's just a matter of time if they don't resolve this issue right now on this spot. It could damage us long term, in my opinion. Genuinely, that's my thoughts on this. Seems like football Club football is more important than repping your nation. Football is just money spinner now. What happened to national pride from back in the day? I don't think it's just club football is more important. I think it's basically just this nation league, which for me in an essence means fuck all. Sorry for swearing, but basically means nothing. It's not Euros, it's not World Cup, it's just something to basically play international games between World Cup and Euros. And I think as much, despite the fact that teams are taking their best players and everything, as much as they want maybe to take this seriously, I don't think many players do. For me at least. I think the Nations League should not be a thing. Because due to this Nations League and all this stuff, players have gone specifically from playing about 50 to 55, maybe 60 games a season to instantly playing around 75 to 80 games a season. And there are already reports that this number could increase to 80 on a regular basis for the best players in a year or two. And if that happens, it's already bad enough that we see ACL injuries in the last few years, and especially now as well, left, right, and center to countless players. And it will be more and more reoccurring. Because for FIFA and UEFA at the moment, money is 100 times more important, it feels like, than the health and well-being of the players. Because what makes money for them is the players. It's nothing else. It's the players that make the game because fans go watch them. Euros, World Cup is cool, but this Nations League and stuff like that, at the moment, genuinely feels like it's more than a nuisance than actually helping anyone. Because as fans, we again go, oh my god, it's another international break, it's goddamn Nations League, like nobody cares. Who cares that England has to play against Finland? France has to play against Kazakhstan or something like that in Nations League. Who goddamn cares? Like genuinely, who goddamn cares? It's like good for nothing type of games. Especially again, like I understand the reasoning and everything behind it, but overall, I don't think it's it. Do you support clubs pulling players out of international duty? Yes. In that instance, yes. I might be a bit biased because on national level, I don't have that type of players because my nation is, well, awful, let's be real. But in Arsenal terms, I still support that. Because whether you like it or not, the biggest investment is for the club than the national team. If it's Euros, if it's World Cup qualifiers, Euro qualifiers, all cool. Euro qualifiers, World Cup qualifiers is more important to the smaller nations. You know, your Norways, your Austrias, your Switzerlands, that basically need to struggle and give their all every single game. But when it comes to big nations like Spain, France, England, Germany, it's more or less pretty much guaranteed that they will go out, they will play basically with their best team, their B team, and 98% of the time, they will qualify with ease. Let's be real. Yes, there are certain nations that may struggle, but this Nations League, I think it's more tended to the smaller nations because it pretty much guarantees you a World Cup or Euro spot. I think it should be more to the smaller nations than the big ones at the end of the day. Because the big teams are gonna get there no matter what. Obviously, you kind of do like we do with Eurovision, where teams are guaranteed spots, like France, Spain, and stuff like that. Yet at the same time, in a way, most of the time, yes, they go play. Most of the time, they go and win. And for the club, it's bad because the players are running to the ground. If they're generally unlucky, they come back injured and everything. And it's not a wonder that after usually these international breaks, the first game for each of the clubs, big ones, especially when most of the players go to international breaks, are crap. That's the biggest chance of the smaller teams to take advantage of that, get points and everything, because they have 2 weeks to prepare for the game against them. And they know that the players will be run into the ground pretty much. For me, it's a very weird subject and everything in that instance. It's a understandable, but at the same time, it's not a good thing. But you can't base international football rankings based on one. Exactly. How do we get national seedings without Nations League? Football development needs Nations League. Yeah, but at the same time, this World Cup rankings and international rankings in a way are a piece of crap anyways. Let's be real. Because it shows nothing at the end of the day. Because the teams that are in top 10, for example, let's look. Top 10 teams international ranking. Top 10 teams international ranking. FIFA ranking teams. So first is Argentina. Okay, cool. They won the World Cup. They have won Libertadores. They have Copa America, and everything. France, Spain just won Euros. So for example, what is the reasoning, for example, to Morocco to be 14th? Switzerland is 15th. Japan is 16th. Mexico is 17th. What else is there? Like, I get it, but it means nothing at the end of the day. Australia is 25th. Are you really gonna tell me that Australia is 25th strongest team in the world? You're really gonna try and tell me that? It's a for example, Korea Republic is 23rd. It's a world overall rankings. It's wild. Belgium is 6th. Belgium haven't been good almost ever. They ruined their golden generation under Martinez when they had actually a chance to maybe do something. They struggled against USA and everything. They have won nothing. Yet they are technically the 6th best team in the world. And they are 4th best team in Europe. On what grounds? Yes, Spain just won Euros. France are recent World Cup winners and everything. Argentina just won a World Cup. Brazil is up there because it's Brazil, to be honest. They haven't won also quite a bit in a while, but still they're up there. Belgium has done nothing. Netherlands have missed Euros few years ago and World Cup few years ago, yet they are still 7th. On what then they are basing all this? Like, it's a weird one. It's a weird one. Why can't Nations League as trial for under 20s or something to prepare them for Olympics or something? Has to still be there, but with a purpose to do that. That's the thing. They could actually do something like that. They could take let's say an idea from Olympic Games. Under 23 squad, 3 to 5 players from the senior level, like genuine senior level. Because let's be real. For example, playing Spain under 23s in Nations League, and then add into the mix, let's just say 5 experienced players. And you don't have to drop the same experienced players, the same 5 every single time. It would allow that. It would be easy. Although when you have, for example, if you're under 23s, right? Yamal, for example, although he's got injured now, he's been hella overplayed. And he's now injured as well. Yamal plays for Spain. He plays for Barcelona. He plays for every single team in Spain imaginable, pretty much. National level. Almost, it feels like. Yamal is injured because he's been run into the ground. Lucky he hasn't got an ACL or anything yet. Knock on wood, he stays healthy. They could do something like Olympics. Under 23 squad with 3 to 5 actually. Because 3 to 5 senior player level players. And that would be actually very interesting in a way. Although it kind of would defeat the purpose of Olympic football. At the same time, why not? Why the frick not? It definitely would allow teams to explore youth, younger players, maybe get them into the team. Because I get Spain are for example, Spain, right? One of the biggest teams in the world. We all know that Rodri, if he's healthy and he's fit, he's gonna get called up to national team every single goddamn time. So how about maybe Rodri stays at City, right? And they call up maybe Gabri Vega, but they call some other players from Spanish league and maybe some other younger players to test them out and see who maybe can be in the Spanish squad to add to these older players. How about something like that? It's mad. Exactly, it doesn't mean nothing because FIFA fund football development and money is pumped into every member nation. So international football has... Exactly. It's all basically just politics and money. That's nothing more, same as Ballon d'Or votes and everything. How many times certain players have won Ballon d'Or when they haven't deserved it? It's the same as Lewandowski got robbed, Thierry Henry got robbed, Wesley Sneijder got robbed, and everything. It's insane how things are in that regard. How much politics and money is in there, it's actually wild. And it's also impossible to call them out on it because they are basically a monopolized organization. They have monopoly in this instance. That is the big thing as well. But yeah, moving on to Oyedeji. We all know Oyedeji, one of our young players, under 21s and everything. Apparently, he's being tracked by Borussia Monchengladbach, another youngster that we actually might lose, ironically enough. We lost Chidobe Martin, we lost Balogun. Every single year it feels like we use a young striker. 2 years ago it was Balogun. Yeah, it was 2 years. Balogun. Last year it was, well, last summer it was obviously Chidobe Martin. Now it looks like Oyedeji might be moving to, well, he's being tracked, at least he's not moving. He's being tracked by Borussia Monchengladbach. Obviously he hasn't kicked the ball too much for Arsenal pretty much. He plays mostly for under 21s. He's been on the bench and everything. But again, nothing much has come out of it. He hasn't played at all. In this instance as well, in my opinion, he easily could have been with the main squad instead of Edin Nketiah. Definitely could have been. Let's be real. So, I want to see him to play at Arsenal's main squad. Let's be real. Against Bolton, why not? Why not put him out there? Instead of Jesus, for example. Jesus did nothing. You want to tell me Oyedeji could have done even worse? It's kind of impossible in that regard. So, yeah. It will be interesting to see what happens with him. That's the thing, he's 21 years old, which means next year he needs to either get promoted or he has to move. Which again is a big issue. Because he hasn't kicked the ball pretty much at all for Arsenal unless Arsenal signed him to the main squad and instantly loaned him out. That is the only thing we could do. That is the only thing how we can keep Oyedeji at Arsenal. But the question is, does Arsenal want to keep Oyedeji? Does Mikel Arteta see him in his plans? Because we have youngsters in under 16s, under 18s, strikers that actually are doing pretty decently. We binned also Mika Biereth, by the way. We signed him from Fulham. Incredible talent. Now we just binned him for what, a few million to Sturm Graz. Like, I don't know what's going on with these strikers. Seems like strikers are being faded out from youth level. Must be able to do the overall. It feels that way. At the same time, actually, if you come to think of it, we haven't had an out-and-out striker under Mikel Arteta. Right? We haven't. Because he had obviously Lacazette and Aubameyang, but he binned them pretty much instantly. But he hasn't signed an out-and-out striker whatsoever. As soon as Arteta left Pep, right, for Arsenal, he instantly signed Haaland, by the way, pretty much. Obviously, he tended to play Mahrez as a number 9, Foden played there, Grealish played there, and stuff like that. But overall, if you come to think of it, Arteta has never managed an out-and-out striker. He hasn't been a coach to out-and-out striker. And he actually, it looks like that, in a way, thanks to Pep, maybe influences from, I don't know, Pulis, Allardyce, and other coaches. He doesn't want an out-and-out striker. He wants a player that can do it all. Like, as I said, Swiss Army knife type of player. But again, I will reiterate the thing I said, I think 2 streams ago, I think it was. There are certain positions in the team where you need specialists. Those are center backs, in my opinion, definitely. Midfielder, you need a defending midfielder. And I would say you need a striker, out-and-out striker as well. A guy who will be there up in the box, who will score bad goals, left, right, and center. Well, you get what I mean, basically. You need a specialist in certain positions. Yes, you have makeshift players, maybe swap wings, play 10 or play number 8, play left back, right back, and stuff like that. But down the spine of the team, you kind of need some specialists. You need some specialists as well. I think we could just change the youth setup. They are doing it. They released just 20 players this summer, didn't they? And they signed a few youngsters. I think Wilshere Mertesacker could get a boot at some point, definitely. City won the league. Also, seems Mikel might be stuck in... Exactly. That for me, that is the big thing. That for me is the big question. Is that the reason? Because under Mikel Arteta, they didn't have a proper striker. They usually had wingers playing as number 9s most of the time. They played even Zinchenko as a number 9 while Mikel Arteta was there, by the way. They didn't have a striker, even Zinchenko played there. Might be stuck in that era, but there's need for that guy that plays in the last man and gets in behind to keep center backs busy. Like, exactly. I think it definitely would help if we had that type of player up there, because I definitely believe that would open up hands for Odegaard, which means that would open up hands for Bukayo Saka, because they couldn't overcommit on a one certain player. They would need to keep tabs on our main striker, for example. Yes, Havertz does a decent job at that, but if you had also a striker who basically you are pretty much dreading the fact that he could get the ball at his feet, take one touch and then slot it top bins, it would require defenders pay extra more attention to that striker, maybe even double team him. Which again means they cannot overcommit to other players in the team, because if you have two players on one player, it most definitely means that in the other side of the pitch, or in other area of the pitch, someone is wide open. And it would actually play more benefit than an issue for Arsenal. It definitely would be more of a pro than a con for Arsenal long term. And it's a weird one. Definitely it's a weird one, which I think needs some answers in that area. Definitely needs some answers, and at the moment, it feels like we don't have any. Arteta doesn't even have any. Because I'm still a bit hung up on the fact that Arteta, when we finished second first time, said we don't need striker, out and out striker, we share the goals around. And yet 1 year later, he comes out and says, oh, we don't have out and out striker, we need to work with what we have. So he's definitely I cannot even speak. Contradicting himself, and I also might be caught up in two minds. Because under Pep he played with no designated striker, now he sees Pep having a striker, and most of the teams that have out and out striker win something. And now he's now sitting there scratching his head and thinking, what I can do? Because he hasn't coached a striker. Like, he made Lacazette play as a DM, he made Aubameyang play left wing back, obviously different team, different tactics, 3 at the back, 5 at the back, and everything on counter-attacks. Yet at the same time, when he had a proper striker, he didn't do anything with it, and now he hasn't signed a proper striker since then. He signed Jesus, but Jesus has said himself he's not a striker. His main forte is not scoring goals. His main is nothing like that. So, to be honest, Jesus is more of a winger than a striker in general. So that, again, as I said, raises more questions than gives answers, and that is a bit of a weird one, again. Anyhow, apparently top 100 defenders have come out, I think. 27 million Arsenal player now ranked higher than Liverpool's Van Dijk in latest top 100, apparently. Of course, big partners, blah blah blah. Apparently, in this center back thing, Saliba has been rated higher than Van Dijk. I'm not sure why I'm mentioning this, by the way. It was just in the news. I don't know what to say on this, by the way. Saliba is one of 3 players in the top 20 this year, with Declan Rice and Bukayo Saka. I don't want to be a stickler here, right? But for me, instead of Declan Rice, there should be Gabriel. Just saying. Just putting it out there that Gabriel should be there instead of Declan Rice, in my opinion. But yeah, I don't know why these comparisons are going on here. I generally don't know. Just let them be, let them play and everything. And according to the latest issue of 442, blah, 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 blah. Nobody cares. He also ruined Jesus, asking him to play quarterback. Jesus should have been just told. Yeah, to be honest, I don't know what he's doing with these strikers. Because at times it feels like he doesn't know how to coach a striker. Yet at the same time, Havertz is doing pretty decently at striker. Yet Havertz isn't a striker in general. He's somewhat of a drifter who has to have that free roam type of role, where he can drift across the pitch in that number 10, number 9 in between the lines type of spot. So again, more questions than answers. Because we all are screaming for Arteta to sign Gyökeres, to sign Šeško even, to sign Osimhen. The big question is, if we signed one of them, would he succeed here even? Would he succeed here at Arsenal? That is the big question even. Which, again, we don't have many answers for, to be honest. Van de Ven versus Saliba. Holy. At the moment, it's Saliba. Van de Ven has the abilities. The big thing about Van de Ven is the high line that they're playing at Spurs. Van de Ven looks brilliant because many times he has to rely on his pace to bail him out. It's similar like Kyle Walker in his prime, pretty much. He wasn't the best of defenders. It was just the fact that he had pace and he has strength to shove players off the ball. Many times he was doing very well, in my opinion. So if Van de Ven was slower, well, let's just say Saliba's pace, with the same abilities Van de Ven has at the moment, would he be regarded as highly? Would he be able to catch those counterattacks and everything when the ball gets lobbed over the top? That is for me the biggest question. Would that be a possibility? Anyways, and the last one, Arsenal's injury list. According to Liverpool Echo. Yes, we're talking since Liverpool are talking about this. Bukayo Saka suffered a potential muscle injury during Erling. Bukayo Saka, one player potentially injured. Gabriel Martinelli, Odegaard, Timber. We don't know what's happening with Yuri Timber, by the way. We don't know what's happening with Ben White. Zinchenko, it is what it is. Tierney, of course. And also Kai Havertz. What's happening with Kai Havertz? We haven't heard anything about Kai Havertz as well. So, again, we have so many injuries, so many knocks, and at the moment, no answers of whether they'll be prepared and everything. Obviously, I think the closer the game against Bournemouth will come, maybe we'll get more answers. We will start to see training pictures and everything. Maybe we'll get some insight there. And of course, the pre-match interview, Arteta will go off Sober Reality Center. So, well, I guess we have to wait till then. Van de Ven was playing in our system, not the high line. Now, don't you miss Eddie Nketiah now? No, I don't. I'm not gonna lie, no, I don't. I don't miss Eddie Nketiah. I just wish that instead of Eddie Nketiah, we would have given Oyedeji, Chidobe, Martin a chance. Just simple chance. Same goes, for example, for Rule Walters instead of, what's its face? What's that dumbass? Cedric Suarez. Cedric Suarez played about 100 minutes the last season at Arsenal. You want to tell me that Rule Walters that we let go couldn't play those minutes? Especially that he played most of the minutes against PSV when we drew that game in the Champions League. A game that pretty much didn't matter to Arsenal in a way. You want to tell me that even to that certain extent, Skelly couldn't play in the midfield instead of maybe put Rice in the midfield or Partey in the midfield and in that El Neni role and play him as number 8. You want to tell me that those nearly 100 or 120 minutes that El Neni played, we couldn't have used the youngster in that time? You really want to tell me that? Like, there have been quite a bit of opportunities for Arteta to use youth, and he never has. You're slowly convincing me that Mikkel is messing up. That's not my intent. That's just my thought process through this everything, because I just want the results. That is the big thing. But overall, as we all know, Arteta technically is a novice as a manager, but he's in his 5th year and he should be winning something, yet he's not winning anything. Let's be real. For the money he has spent, he should be winning something. And on top of that is the fact that he's making the same mistakes still that he made when he just came in. That for me is the biggest worry in that regard. And I think as we all know, he's very stubborn and very pragmatic, and he's very set in his ways that on many occasions it's his way or the highway. And I think he as much as he has adapted with Odegaard injury, he doesn't adapt if he doesn't have to, in a way. It sometimes feels that way. Yes, he has adapted against City to play low block and everything, but usually when he makes subs as well, was last year, 2 years ago, he tends to make position per position subs, and he does it all the time. If you take off Martinelli, you put on Trossard. If you take off Odegaard, he tend to put on Fabio Vieira. If you take off Partey, you tend to put on Jorginho. If you take off White, you put on Timber, or if you take off Zinchenko, you put on Kivior and stuff like that. He's very reactionary, he's not proactive, and he makes the same substitutions all the time. That is what is the biggest issue for me. He doesn't mix it up, and during games as well, he doesn't, for example, the simplest thing, you can swap wings, for example, throw a curveball at the opponents to see what's going to happen, change the weak, strong foot of the players on each side, basically, in that instance. And he doesn't do that. Obviously, it would ruin the dynamic of the right side and everything. So, again, those are things that pretty much persist throughout the years, every single year, and they have stayed the same. Nothing changes. It's the same time he makes also substitutions. If everything's going somewhat well, he usually makes substitutions around 65th, 70th minute in that time frame. That's the first you see players warming up or coming on, most of the time. And at the same time, it's the same goes for, unless the opponent scores or something goes haywire, he never changes anything pretty much. That for me is the big thing. He does the same things every single year, with no adjustments in that regard. Too many errors from a rookie had done well, but we need start seeing results. It's all amazing that we hear that project's about to go bang. We have gone from 8th to 2nd twice and everything, but how long can you finish 2nd until the penny drops and enough is enough? That for me is that sore spot. That for me is the sore spot. Thought if he built a versatile squad, it means that players should be able to swap wings, fluidity. Think he's scared to lose that. In a way, definitely. I think he's scared to basically take risks, and he doesn't want the backlash if it doesn't work out. He tends sometimes to be the genius, like Pep, for example. He tried to do it against Lyon and stuff like that in the Champions League when he got eliminated by Lyon and everything. He tends to sometimes do those mad things and to look like a genius. And at the end of the day, it almost never works out. He needs to do the obvious thing. He needs to sub on or put the players in the correct places for it to work. Because Havertz in midfield didn't work for half a season. All of a sudden you think it's going to work against Southampton? No, it's not. And stuff like that. It's the same things basically. And I think he doesn't want to change certain aspects of the game. And I think he should. That's the big thing. Because I want to see the fact that we play basically combined football from the year we played rock and roll, all out attack almost, counter-attack type of level football we played in the first season we finished 2nd, with the control we are playing at the moment. Basically, I want to see the combination of that. Because if we, for example, score 3-4 goals quickly, like we did in the first season we finished 2nd 2 years ago, and then we start to control the game like we do now, it would be much more, how to say, not profitable, but much more advantageous for Arsenal. Because the ball would be in our court. If they start to attack, we need to counter instantly. If they don't want, they see the game is done, we can just see the game out and take as less risks as possible. Just like City tends to do, basically. Exactly, comfortable. Like City tends to do. Score quick goals if they can, and then they just basically coast till the final whistle. And I think we don't do that enough. We tend to shoot ourselves in the foot and make it 3 times harder than it should be many times. We saw that against Southampton, against Leicester. It should be somewhat easy games, especially since they are at home. Not to mention what's going to happen when we have to go away, by the way. We have gotten 2 of the weakest teams already at home at the moment, and I don't want to say we struggled, but it wasn't comfortable against them, which it should have been. Let's be real. So those technically small things, but these small things add up to massive things over time. Just like, I don't know, dust. There's a bit of dust here or there, but if you don't clean it, you don't basically make it clean instantly, it builds until you have a whole mountain of those, and it's much more overwhelming. That for me is the big thing. But anyways, guys, I think on that note, I'm gonna end it here. Thank you guys so much for being here. Thank you guys so much for chilling. You've been freaking fantastic. Big up Coach in the chat. You've been fantastic with the chat and everything. Have a nice day have a nice evening today. Have a nice day tomorrow. See you all tomorrow. Hope you had a great day. Like, comment, subscribe, leave a comment if you're watching this as a playback. Take care, stay safe, big up everyone, and see you all tomorrow. Peace.